Hello everyone and welcome to our contemporary math lesson on 11.5, buying a house with a mortgage. Now it may seem kind of far away and the task of buying a house could seem daunting, but a lot of you probably within the next 10 years are going to look at buying a house. So a lot of this information is going to be pretty relevant and useful for you in your near future. So a mortgage is a long-term loan in which the property is used as security for payment of the difference between the down payment and the sale price. So the mortgage is the name of the loan when you buy a house. Okay? It's the amount that you're financing. Some other costs that can incur during the sale of a home occur in closing escrow. So when you go to buy a house, it's such a huge loan that it takes a while for all these funds to be procured. And this time is called escrow. And there's lots of people who work on this loan, and so there are going to be closing costs associated with actually getting a mortgage. Now, lending institutions may require the buyer to pay points at closing. And 1 point equals 1% of the mortgage, which is the amount being borrowed. Now, what buying points does is it can get you a lower interest rate. So the more points you pay, the lower your interest rate, and that's how it goes. Now, to calculate the down payment, you want to multiply the percent of the down payment by the payment price. So an example says to purchase a $310,000 home, the buyer must make a 25% down payment. So what you do is you just multiply 25% times 310,000, so we change it to a decimal, and so the down payment is $77,500. Now, to find the amount of the mortgage, you want to subtract the down payment from the sale price. So in our previous example, the sale price was $310,000. We subtract the down payment, and that gives us our mortgage amount. So the mortgage here is $232,500. Now, to calculate the cost of 1 point on the property, multiply the mortgage by 1%. So in our example, we had a $232,500 mortgage, and 1 point we'd multiply by 0.01, and it gives us $2,325. Now, this is actually considered interest, okay? But it's paid up front before you can even take the loan out. So not only do you have to make your down payment, but you also have to pay these points before you can get a loan. To find 2 points, you'd multiply by 2%. To find 3 points, you'd multiply by 3%, and so on and so forth. Now, to calculate the monthly mortgage payment, you're going to want to use table 11.4 in your textbook, or I've given you a mortgage table in your notes. So let's go ahead and jump over here. So this table talks about the monthly payment per $1,000 of mortgage, and it includes your principal and your interest. So it's very similar to the fixed interest loans that we were talking about earlier, except now this is per $1,000 of your mortgage. In this example, it says the loan listed that we were just dealing with is to be paid over 30 years at a rate of 7.5%. So for a 30-year loan at 7.5%, you're going to end up paying $6.99 per month for every $1,000 of your mortgage. Okay, so this is the information we got from that table, the $6.99. So what we want to do is take the mortgage amount and divide it by 1,000. This is going to tell us how many thousands we actually have, and then you multiply it by $6.99. So the $232,500 divided by 1,000 times 6.99 gives us a monthly payment of $1,625.18. Okay, so that's how you calculate your monthly mortgage payment. Now, to find if you qualify for a loan, a lot of banks won't just give you a loan. They need to make sure that you can actually afford it as well as all of your other living expenses. So what they do is they say, we're going to allow you to spend 28% of your adjusted monthly income on paying off the loan. So this is the amount of monthly payment that you're going to qualify for. So your adjusted monthly income is your gross income minus your monthly expenses. So if you already have student loans, if you already have a car loan, all these things add up and they take away from your gross monthly income. So an example is going to be your gross income minus your expenses times 0.28, and that's going to equal the maximum monthly payment you're going to be allowed to make. So let's just say your gross income is $2,500 per month, and you have $300 that you're paying off a student loan. And so we're going to subtract those and times by 0.28. And so the maximum monthly payment that you can make is $616 per month. Now, that $616 also has to include your principal and your interest, which is your monthly mortgage payment, but it also has to include taxes and insurance on the property because these things are also required to own a house. So that $616 has to cover principal, interest, taxes, as well as insurance. So looking at this, the $616 would not be enough to qualify for this mortgage that we had been talking about. Now, to find the total amount you pay for the house, you multiply your monthly payment by 12, and that gives you the amount you pay in a year, then by the number of years for your loan. Then what you want to do is add this number to your down payment and to any points that you paid. Now to find out how much interest you paid, subtract the selling price of the house from your total amount paid. So an example, you're going to take your monthly payment times 12 times the number of years plus your down payment plus your points, and that equals your total cost. Okay, so in the example that we were working with, remember the monthly payment was $1,625.18 times 12 months a year times 30 years plus the down payment plus the points on the mortgage. Okay, and that gave us $664,889.80 would be the total price paid for our house. Now, to find out how much interest you paid, you want to subtract the selling price of the house from your total amount paid. So your total interest is going to be the total amount that you paid for the house minus the selling price of $310,000, and that gives you a total amount of interest of $354,889.80. Yes, that is correct. And you'll see that you end up paying more in interest than what the house even cost in the first place. And that's very common that you almost double or more the price of the house when you have to take out a 30-year mortgage. So there's a lot of money going into interest when you buy a house. Now, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. And so if we're looking 30 years, we're talking 360 payments. Now, to find out how much of a payment is applied towards principal, you simply multiply the current principal by the rate for 1 month, and you're going to use the I equals PRT formula. So all of this is still based on your simple interest formula, and then you subtract this from the monthly payment. So as an example, you take your principal times the rate times the time, and that equals your interest. Okay, and then the monthly payment minus the interest gives you the amount that you actually get to apply towards principal to amortize or kill off your mortgage. So in this example, we started off with a mortgage amount of $232,500, and the rate was 7.5%. And so we multiply by 0.075, and this is for 1 month. So we go 1 divided by 12, and it gives us $1,453.13 in interest. Now, to find out how much of your payment gets applied to principal, we take the monthly payment that we figured out earlier, and we subtract the interest from it, and that means $172.06 gets applied to your principal amount. Now, we can also find the amount that's left on your mortgage after your first month's payment. Okay, to do that, you're going to take the previous balance, which was $232,500, and then you only get to subtract not your entire payment, but the amount of principal that gets applied to your mortgage, so minus the 172.06. And so after 1 month's payment, you still owe $232,327.94, with 359 payments still to go.